It took just 10 seconds, 10 blistering, unapologetic, fearless seconds, for Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett to silence Marjorie Taylor Greene in front of the entire nation. And what followed? A moment that left the room frozen, the internet blazing, and Greene staring in disbelief. Before we get into the full showdown, make sure you like, subscribe, and drop a comment on whose side you're on, because this one's going to spark some serious debate. What started as another routine hearing inside the walls of Congress turned into a political earthquake, and all began with one of the most controversial lawmakers in America lighting the fuse. Marjorie Taylor Greene, known for her explosive outbursts and deeply polarizing rhetoric, was once again at the center of attention. But no one expected what was coming next. No one expected that Jasmine Crockett, a freshman congresswoman from Texas, would step up, lock eyes, and in 10 seconds flat, shut the whole thing down. Now, before we dive into the fireworks, take a second to smash that like button. Subscribe for the realest political breakdowns, and drop a comment on whose side you're on. Because this one's about to get heated. The day began tense. The House Oversight Committee had gathered for a hearing that was supposed to focus on government accountability. But as is often the case lately, it took only a few minutes for the topic to veer off course. Greene, who has a reputation for hijacking hearings to push her far-right agenda, began to dominate the floor. Her tone was sharp, her words loaded. But what really struck a nerve was the way she framed her message, laced with dog whistles and racially charged undertones, all delivered with her signature smirk. She started with crime. Always crime. Citing carefully selected stats, Greene launched into a rant about urban violence, welfare abuse, and what she claimed were the failures of liberal policies in communities of color. She didn't mention race directly, but everyone knew what she was doing. It was the same old trick. Take coded language, wrap it in concern, and serve it up as political commentary. But what made this different was who was sitting across from her, Jasmine Crockett, a former civil rights attorney. Crockett didn't flinch. She didn't interrupt. She didn't roll her eyes. She watched, waited, and gave Greene enough rope to hang her entire argument. The look on Crockett's face? Stone cold, focused. She knew exactly what Greene was doing, and she wasn't about to let it slide. This wasn't Crockett's first rodeo. Since stepping into Congress, she's made it clear she's not there to play nice with racism wrapped in politics. She's direct, precise, and she knows how to weaponize facts without ever raising her voice. She had already become known in political circles for her composure under pressure. But in this moment, even seasoned staffers could feel the energy shift in the room. People leaned forward. Phones came out. Staffers started texting. You could feel it. The storm was coming. Greene continued, doubling down on her talking points, painting a picture of chaos and decay supposedly caused by progressive policies. But beneath her words, the racial implications were impossible to ignore. It was one of those moments where everyone in the room silently asked, "Is anyone going to respond to this?" And that's when Jasmine Crockett moved. No raising of her voice. No pounding on the table. Just a calm lean forward, a breath, and 10 seconds of undeniable truth that shut Greene down like flipping a switch. But more on that in the next section, because the lead-up matters. And here's why. Crockett could have jumped in earlier. She could have thrown a fit or matched Greene's tone. But she didn't. Instead, she gave Greene the floor, the spotlight, and the rope. And when it was time, she responded with the exact precision of a trained litigator. Not just to Greene's words, but to the intent behind them, to the racism, the deflection, the projection. You see, this wasn't just political theater. This was a calculated moment of exposure. And Crockett wasn't there to perform. She was there to educate, to dismantle, to draw the line. That's what made it so powerful. It wasn't just that she shut Greene down. It's how she did it. Let's be real. We've seen countless political fights in Congress, but rarely do they feel like turning points. This did. Because for once, someone didn't just push back. They pushed through. And the fact that it was Jasmine Crockett, that made all the difference. She didn't rely on insults. She didn't get personal. She let Greene speak, and then used Greene's own words to show just how hollow they really were. That's what made the response so lethal. And that's why the room went silent the moment she started speaking. So if you're watching this right now and thinking, finally, someone said what needed to be said, hit that subscribe, because this is the kind of leadership we cover. No fluff, no spin, just facts, courage, and the moments that define political history. Because what came next? That 10-second takedown? It wasn't just a viral clip. It was a masterclass in truth over theatrics. Stay locked in, because it only gets better from here. It didn't take a speech. It didn't take shouting. It took Jasmine Crockett exactly 10 seconds, and the whole room went dead silent. Marjorie Taylor Greene had just wrapped up her rant. She leaned back in her chair like she'd dropped a mic. It was the kind of smug pause she always takes, expecting either applause or outrage. But she didn't get either. What she got instead was silence, followed by Jasmine Crockett leaning forward, eyes locked, voice razor sharp. And then it hit. "Congresswoman," Crockett began, her tone as calm as a surgeon's hands, "if ignorance was an argument, maybe you'd have a point. But what you just said isn't only false, it's dangerous." That was it. 10 seconds. No yelling, no theatrics. Just one sentence that sliced through the noise and dropped like a hammer. You could feel it. The room froze. Greene blinked. You could actually see the confidence drain from her posture in real time. The smug grin disappeared. She wasn't ready. Not for that. Crockett didn't need to raise her voice because her words carried more weight than Greene's entire performance. She laid bare the coded racism that had just been broadcast across the floor. She called it what it was, not a political stance, not an opinion, but reckless, dangerous rhetoric, delivered by someone who should know better, but clearly doesn't. This wasn't a moment of debate. This was a moment of truth. And if you feel the fire Jasmine Crockett brought to that floor, do what Greene's defenders won't. Hit that like button, subscribe to Union Show, and drop a comment if you think Greene just got completely cooked. Crockett didn't stop there. She followed up with facts, not feelings. She highlighted how Greene continuously uses the same script. Cherry-picked stats, vague claims, and fear-based generalizations. She pointed out how dangerous it is to suggest that entire communities are broken based on race or zip code. She reminded the room that people outside that chamber are listening, and that words from Congress carry weight far beyond those walls. But it wasn't just what she said. It was how she said it. Crockett's voice was calm, intentional. Every pause was perfectly timed. She wasn't reacting. She was leading. While Greene throws verbal grenades hoping to create chaos, Crockett builds arguments like a fortress, brick by brick, grounded in evidence, facts, and lived reality. And that's why it landed so hard. See, Greene's usual tactic is to overwhelm the room, shout over opposition, steamroll context, and bait others into losing their cool. It works often, but this time, Crockett flipped the strategy upside down. She didn't play Greene's game. She ended it, and the reaction told the whole story. Members of the committee sat still, a few raised eyebrows. Others quietly nodded. Even some who had previously aligned with Greene looked caught off guard by how fast and clean the takedown was. A GOP staffer in the back reportedly muttered, "Damn," under his breath, and that was before the clip hit Twitter. Within minutes, the video had gone viral. No edits, no clickbait, just a raw moment of truth. Crockett calmly, surgically, and with absolute clarity shutting down one of the loudest voices in Congress. Memes flooded in. Commentators started calling it Crockett's mic drop, the 10-second roast. And the truth bomb heard around the hill. But let's be real, this wasn't just entertainment. This was bigger. Because when Crockett delivered that line, she didn't just speak for herself. She spoke for every viewer who's tired of watching racially loaded nonsense dominate political conversations. She spoke for people who've had to listen to coded hate and pretend it was just free speech. She spoke for everyone who's ever wanted someone to finally say what needed to be said, and do it right to their face. That's why this moment exploded. Not because it was dramatic, but because it was real. And Jasmine Crockett? She didn't come to perform. She came to correct, confront, and control the room with poise, presence, and truth. She knew exactly what she was doing. She let Greene think she was in control, until it was her turn to speak. And in 10 seconds, she flipped the whole room. So now the question is, Was it just a moment or the start of a shift? Because if leaders like Crockett keep stepping up like this, there might finally be accountability in the halls of power. And Greene? She may think twice before trying that same script again, especially with a mic in front of Crockett. Now, if you're feeling the impact of that 10-second takedown, if you respect the calm, collected fire that Crockett brought, then don't just sit there. Comment who won this exchange, hit subscribe, and join Union Show as we keep breaking down the moments that matter. Because this was a kind of political clapback that echoes. You know a moment hits hard when even your allies don't clap back. And that's exactly what happened when Jasmine Crockett dropped the truth on Marjorie Taylor Greene. The silence that followed Crockett's takedown wasn't awkward. It was reverent. There were no gasps, no yelling, just a sharp, loaded pause. For a room that usually thrives on chaos and interruptions, that silence was thunder. The kind that makes everyone look around and go, "Did that just happen?" Even Greene herself didn't fire back right away. Her usual knee-jerk response, throwing another insult or doubling down, never came. She stared ahead, blinked a few times, and tried to gather herself. But the momentum had completely shifted, and everyone in that room knew it. Let's break down how powerful that moment was, because this wasn't just about Crockett and Greene. It was about the reaction that swept the room like a shockwave. On one side, you had Democrats who looked like they'd been waiting for someone to finally say what Crockett just said. Some leaned back with a slow, knowing grin. Others just stared forward, processing the fact that Crockett had said what they wanted to say, but in fewer words, with more precision and with undeniable weight. And on the other side, Republicans, some of them who usually cheer when Greene speaks, stayed silent, uncomfortable. A few shuffled their papers. Others looked down at their phones, pretending to be busy. The energy had shifted completely, and don't think the cameras missed it. Political journalists in the room immediately started tweeting. One wrote, "Crockett just hit Greene with one of the cleanest shutdowns I've seen in years." Another said, "Room dead quiet after Crockett's response. Even MTG looked shook." And they weren't exaggerating. Now here's the part that hit even harder. Jasmine Crockett didn't gloat. She didn't milk the moment. She didn't look around for applause. She leaned back, folded her hands, and let the silence speak for itself. That restraint, that confidence, that's power. But it didn't stay in the room for long. Within minutes, the clip of Crockett's takedown was already making waves online. Social media exploded. TikTok edits with music drops. Twitter threads breaking down every second of her line. YouTubers doing frame-by-frame breakdowns. It wasn't just a political moment. It was a cultural one. On Instagram, influencers and activists reposted the clip with captions like, "Crockett didn't come to play. This is how you handle racist nonsense. Clean, fast, and factual. Congress needs more voices like her." Even late-night hosts picked it up. By evening, the moment had already hit national headlines. Crockett silences Greene with one sentence. Congresswoman delivers most viral moment of the week. 10 seconds of truth. Crockett dominates House floor. And let's talk about what made it stick. It wasn't a personal attack. It wasn't a dramatic outburst. It was pure, unfiltered, intelligent resistance. Crockett didn't come across like a politician trying to score points. She came across like a woman who'd had enough and decided, in real time, to cut through the noise with truth. She reminded everyone that clarity, not volume, wins the room. And that's what made the reaction so intense. People are used to drama in Congress. They're used to name-calling, shouting matches, performative outrage. But what Crockett delivered was different and more dangerous to people like Greene, because it was calm, accurate, and impossible to argue with. And Greene? She knew it. After the hearing, Greene tried to shift attention with a vague tweet about the radical left being emotional, but no one was listening. All the engagement was on Crockett. The comments were flooded with support for her. Viewers across the political spectrum, even moderates, agreed that Greene had overstepped, and Crockett had put her back in place without even breaking a sweat. It was a masterclass in real-time leadership. And let's be honest, we don't get a lot of those moments anymore. We get shouting matches. We get viral moments that burn fast and fade. But this one, this stuck, because it wasn't built on hype. It was built on truth, control, and backbone. So if you're the kind of viewer who's tired of seeing bigotry dressed up as opinion, tired of seeing people like Greene dominate the headlines, and ready to see more leaders like Crockett, then subscribe right now. Because Union Show is where we follow the truth, not the noise. And while the room might have gone silent that day, the internet didn't. It roared. That wasn't just a takedown. That was a turning point. Jasmine Crockett didn't just clap back. She carved out a legacy in 10 seconds flat. For most members of Congress, it takes years to leave a mark. A landmark bill, a viral speech, a historical vote. But Jasmine Crockett? She managed to etch her name into political history with a single response. One moment, one sentence. And it wasn't because she wanted the spotlight. It's because she carried the kind of courage most politicians only pretend to have. What made her response to Marjorie, Taylor Greene matter wasn't just the sharpness. It was the timing, the poise, and the weight behind every word. Crockett's takedown wasn't some random mic drop. It was built on years of experience fighting for civil rights in courtrooms, defending people ignored by the system, and refusing to accept the status quo. She walked into Congress with that same fight, and when Greene stepped into the line with racial dog whistles and lazy stereotypes, Crockett didn't hesitate. She acted. But what she did next was even more powerful. She set a standard in a space where racism often hides behind policy, and prejudice was a suit and tie. Crockett called out without blinking. And not only that, she did it with a kind of calm fury that doesn't yell, doesn't flinch, and doesn't back down. She didn't come to play politics. She came to serve truth. And here's what the audience needs to understand. This moment wasn't just about Greene being wrong. It was about Crockett showing what happens when a real leader steps up. Someone who doesn't just respond, they educate, expose, and empower. She didn't just tell Greene she was wrong. She revealed why her words were dangerous, how they feed narratives that demonize entire communities, how they echo the same racist frameworks used for decades to divide Americans, and how they're not just offensive, but strategically harmful. In 10 seconds, Crockett showed the difference between performing power and possessing it. And what came next proved her impact wasn't a fluke. It was a ripple. Civil rights leaders publicly praised her. Social media exploded with support. Young activists who often feel ignored by Washington suddenly saw someone in Congress who spoke their language, not just with slang, but with clarity, confidence, and conviction. They didn't see a politician. They saw force. Think about it. How often do you see a black woman in Congress dismantle racist rhetoric on national television without even raising her voice? It's rare, but it shouldn't be. And Jasmine Crockett just made it look easy. But here's where the moment becomes even more powerful. Crockett didn't use that viral moment to boost herself. She used it to bring attention to real issues. In follow-up interviews, she pivoted from the drama to the policies, talking about education, healthcare access, racial equity, and voting rights. She reminded viewers that the real fight isn't just in the halls of Congress. It's in our communities. This is what separates Crockett from the typical soundbite politician. She doesn't chase headlines. Headlines chase her, because when she speaks, she's speaking for more than herself. And if you're tired of hearing the same old voices talk in circles while nothing changes, if you're looking for real leaders, then hit that subscribe. Because here on Union Show, we're not here to flatter the loud. We're here to highlight the bold. Crockett's response to Greene wasn't just a clapback. It was a blueprint, a message to every member of Congress who thinks they can spew hate without consequence. A reminder that not everyone in the room is going to sit quietly while racism gets repackaged as opinion. There are fighters in the chamber now, and Jasmine Crockett is one of the fiercest. And here's the truth. Greene's brand is chaos, noise, distraction. But Crockett's brand, it's clarity. She doesn't waste time. She doesn't take the bait. She waits, listens, and then drops a line so potent the walls shake. And in a world drowning in noise, that kind of clarity isn't just powerful, it's revolutionary. So when people look back at this era of politics, they might not remember the exact date or the exact hearing, but they'll remember this. One woman, one line, 10 seconds. And the moment everything changed. When truth hits hard enough, the echo doesn't fade, it grows. And Jasmine Crockett's words are still shaking halls of power. What happened after the Crockett versus Greene moment was more than just viral attention. It was a shift, a cultural, political, and emotional shift. It wasn't just people clapping for a quick comeback. It was people realizing what real leadership looks like in an era dominated by loudmouths and clickbait. Let's be honest, most viral political moments burn fast and vanish. A heated exchange, a tweet, a clip that trends for a day and disappears. But this moment, it stuck because Crockett didn't just land a line. She delivered a message, and it hit home for millions. Immediately after the hearing, reporters swarmed both sides. Greene tried to play damage control. She brushed off the moment, claiming that Crockett was overreacting, that she didn't mean anything racist, and that the left was twisting her words. But it didn't land. Not this time. Because the internet had receipts. The full clip, the raw attention, and most importantly, Crockett's calm demolition of her entire argument. Meanwhile, Crockett, she didn't flinch. No press tour. No over-explaining. Just one tweet that said, "We're done letting racism hide behind microphones and policy. I said what needed to be said." That tweet alone racked up over 1 million views in 24 hours. Cable news picked it up. Progressive hosts praised her composure. Even some moderates who usually avoid controversy admitted that her response was the kind of directness Congress needs more of. It wasn't just a moment. It was a model for how to confront hatred in real time. But the biggest shock came from the reaction outside Washington. Grassroots organizers in multiple states cited Crockett's moment in fundraising emails and rally speeches. Civil rights attorneys and educators call her response textbook anti-racism in action. Young voters, especially young women of color, flooded comment sections saying this was the first time they felt seen in a political space. Because Crockett didn't just push back, she pushed forward. And the fallout? Oh, it came fast. Greene went back to her usual routine, loud tweets, vague insults, trying to turn the focus away from her embarrassment. But the problem was no one forgot. That clip kept circulating. Every time she spoke afterward, the internet brought it back. Didn't Crockett roast you in 10 seconds, though? Became a meme. And that kind of public memory, it doesn't go away easy. But this story isn't about Greene anymore. It's about Crockett and what she represents moving forward. Because what this moment did was elevate her status from rising star to national force. She showed she's not just another voice in chamber. She's a leader willing to face the fire and speak with both clarity and class. She showed she's ready to fight racism, not with rage, but with precision, power, and presence. Her office reported a spike in calls, emails, and volunteers offering to help her next campaign. Donations surged. Requests for interviews piled up. But Crockett stayed focused. She made one thing clear. This wasn't about going viral. It was about standing up and continuing to stand up when it matters most. So what comes next? If this moment taught us anything, it's that the tides are shifting. The days of letting politicians spew hate without consequence are ending. Voices like Jasmine Crockett's aren't rare anymore. They're rising. And the more visibility she gets, the more accountability people like Greene will face. Because in a system that often rewards volume over values, Crockett just flipped the game. She proved that truth doesn't need to scream. It just needs to show up, calm, collected, unapologetic. And now, people are watching. The nation knows who Jasmine Crockett is. And they'll be listening for her voice every time someone like Greene steps out of line. So if you're one of the millions who saw that moment and felt something shift, if you're tired of hate hiding behind politics and ready for leaders who lead with strength and sense, then this is your moment too. Like the video. Subscribe to Union Show and comment below what this moment meant to you. Because this wasn't just a fight between two congresswomen. This was a battle between two visions of America, and Jasmine Crockett made it very clear which one she's standing for. And from the look of it, she's just getting started. So what do you think? Did Jasmine Crockett deliver one of the most powerful clapbacks in congressional history? Or was this just another heated moment in DC's never-ending circus? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Hit that like button. if you stand with facts over fear. And don't forget to subscribe to Union Show, where we break down power, politics, and the people who shake up the system. Catch you in the next one.